David.
Hello, I'm Dave Meckler, and I am on the faculty at Kenyatta College. I've taught in the district since 1997, and my non-teaching workload has definitely increased over those 19 years. And I just wanted to give you a flavor of what it's like, what kind of administrative burdens we've taken on. And I'll focus in on very specific things, to all the necessary tools that we use in our day-to-day work, and CreateConnect, TrackNet, Web Access, and our new toy for online planning. These are all individually easy to use. If someone comes in and demonstrates this to you, you'll say, oh, what's the big deal? Well, we only use them now and then. We use these programs intermittently, which is enough time to let us forget all the different idiosyncrasies and non-intuitive tricks and pitfalls that all these programs have. Using these programs is often very tedious, and of course we have great colleagues and our manuals to solve our problems, look up our information that we need, but that takes time, and that's the whole point of this. Administrative burden created by all these programs. So to get into the details, I love coming up with classes. I love designing curriculum. And I actually think this is a pretty good tool. However, let's say I'm teaching a really great course and I want to add an honors section to it. So I go to my program here, and of course I search for my program because I'm going to make a change to it. But no, that's going to bring up an uneditable copy of the program. To find it, you have to search for it under the build button. And then that will bring you up to this level of the program. And now you have all these different checkboxes lead to entire pages of information that you have to fill out. My mission was to add honors to this great course I'm teaching. Where is honors? I don't see it listed. Somehow I'm supposed to know, magically intuit, that if I click basic course information, that will give me this long page, and oh yeah, somewhere down there, oh yeah, there's a little box that I can click yes, and then that will go back and change that original menu, and so I will have an honors addendum page to fill out all those. This is hard to remember over the many months. It's easy to forget, and one has to constantly relearn how to use these programs. Every semester we get to take our SLO information. We have many little windows and tabs to click to report our SLO data. Also easy to forget, easy to get frustrated with. And so what should take minutes often takes hours. I love online resources, and even for my face-to-face classes. So let's say I want to design a quiz using Web Access. You might say this is instructional activity. But believe me, when you're filling out all these checkboxes, it does not feel like teaching. Each little window here has, if you click on it, it would open up a whole list of options. And we have to remember and check off, especially if I'm doing the same quiz over and over, or the same format quiz over and over and over. I have to remember each time to check each one of those boxes. Very easy to do. Our latest, again, excellent. I like the whole idea behind the strategic planning online, putting our program reviews online. It will, in the long run, I think, save some time. But in the meantime, there's a great deal of frustration and administrative overhead of learning how to use this program. For example, if I wanted to go into any of those things, very easy, just a single click. Let's say I wanted to go into executive summary. I click, nothing happens. Well, of course you're supposed to know that you double-click that line. And so all these frustrations accumulate, and so what seems like a handful of easy-to-use programs actually generate many, many hours of phone calls and emails saying, it worked last week, I don't know why it does not work this week. So that's just a small taste of the administrative increase in non-teaching work. that I have. I love teaching, I love learning new software. When I teach in my music classes, I love new music software. These programs, not so much.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, my name is Rebecca Alex. I've taught for 21 years for the College of San Mateo. 18 of those were as an adjunct, and the last 3 have been a full-timer. I teach for the 2D art program. In my program, we have 6 adjuncts and 1 full-timer. That's me. And so my colleague is passing out a handout where I put together my workload in terms of my hours. And I hadn't done this either, so it was very instructional to do so for myself. What I found is that I spend about 32 hours a week in what I call face time with my students. This would be 18 hours in class, 10 hours of prep, lectures, PowerPoints, things like that, 4 hours of office hours. And then I spend about 27 hours a week with other factors, so the administrative part of it, where I'm going over program review, SLOs, and things like that. And finally, if you look at the bottom of the handout, you'll see that I'm very involved, as I think all my colleagues are, in making sure that we have a lot of college and community outreach. So, for instance, some of the things that I'm involved in, I'm an advisor for the Fine Arts Club, I've started some internships, and all of this, I think, is really the crux of what we do as educators. So there's a great Seneca saying, it says, and I actually put this on my syllabi, every fire is the same size when it starts. I feel that my instructional time with my students is just starting the spark. But the rest of it, where I can fan the flames, I can give fuel to it and make this fire grow into a great passion, is when I can take these students and show them what can you do with an art degree? What can you do with your education? And so, for instance, with the art internships, I was able to partner with a museum in Burlingame called the Peninsula Museum of Art. Every single one of those interns has gone on to a career in art history or in museum studies. I just heard from a couple students. One just got a full ride to the University of Reading in the UK. Another one is now an art conservator at the Huntington Library. This is an opportunity that wouldn't have happened. I have an ongoing relationship on a more pragmatic scale with Flax Arts. They give our students discounts, and they always call me first when they're going to hire an employee, because they're going to hire somebody from my program. And then finally, to leave it with some inspiration as to why we go the extra mile, we put in all these extra hours, is this one story. So last year, with my Fine Arts Club, we worked every Friday on a mural that was in conjunction with 3 other clubs. It was the Umoja, Puente, and Polynesian clubs. Clubs that traditionally represent historically unrepresented students. And we were creating a mural for the Village, which is a room at CSM, which is a joint classroom and a meeting room for the students. And so it took us forever to plan it. By the time we finished at the end of the spring, we figured we'd put about 2,000 hours into painting this mural. Very complex mural, and it traces the students, from all these groups, beginnings to their civil rights struggles, to where they end up with education, which is opening all these doors for them. So now we're wrapping up the mural. We're really tired because we've been working on it the whole year. And as we're working on it, the Polynesian Club comes in. Well, the Polynesian Club was in there to rehearse because they were going to be singing for graduation. So we're trying to be quiet. They start to sing, and they were quiet as mice. You could not hear them. And I'm thinking to myself, oh no, this is going to be a disaster. And the poor advisor kept saying, you guys, let me hear you. Let me hear your voices. They could not do it. And finally, she went over to the mural, and in the mural we had painted one of the great explorers and one of the great Polynesian warriors who had crossed the Pacific Ocean in a canoe. And she went over to that and she said, look at where you came from. You come from a tradition of great warriors and explorers. People are amongst the bravest in the world. Let me hear your voices. And at that point, the roof blew off. They were so loud. And my group just started crying. And I looked at them, I said, you guys, that's why we just put in all the time. That's what it's all about. And I think, here representing, I'm honored to be one of the presenters. I feel that, workload equity, it encourages all of us to take that extra step, to go above and beyond, and to encourage all the faculty and staff to take that spark that they've started in the classroom and fan it into something much greater. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sarah Harmon, for those who don't know me. I am an adjunct professor of Spanish and linguistics. I've actually taught at all 3 of our campuses, although for the last 10 years my home base has been Kenyatta College. And so I was asked to share my experience as an adjunct faculty member. So to start off, I'd actually like to plant an image in everybody's head. It's a bucolic spring morning, and a farmer has started his day. He has a large task at hand. He has to plow his acreage, and his machines are down for some time to come. However, he has a team of horses, so he knows he can get the job done. So how does he form his team? Can he use one strong horse and a handful of ponies? Or does he need 2 to 4 horses of about the same strength? How does he balance the workload across the team? Fall 2005 was my first term at Skyline, and it was pretty routine. I taught 5 to 8 units per semester and reported student learning outcomes. I attended division meetings, department meetings, and I attended flex days. And this alone was a full workload because I was finishing my dissertation at the time. So I couldn't take on any extra responsibilities. At about that time, the faculty across this district and probably across the state, were suddenly being asked to pack more into their work weeks. So starting fall 2006, when I transferred over to Kenyatta, I started watching my full-timer in my department was taking on program reviews, student learning outcomes, curriculum, as we all have to do, was also serving on somewhere between 4 and 10 different committees at least. I honestly lost count. All this while still teaching 15 units and holding about 5 office hours a week. And she was the only full-timer in our department, which means she was the one to do all of this work by herself. She was using her spare time just to catch up on sleep. So the lead mare of my team was growing weary, and I saw that she needed help, so this pony decided to pitch up to the plow. So by fall 2008, I had become the SLO lead for my department. I was doing all of the marketing campaign for course flyers and department brochures for our department and one more. I was revising course outlines of records. I was developing curricula for my department as well as other departments in the division. I started becoming more active in the honors transfer program and began mentoring students. I teach 8 to 10 units a semester, hold office hours, and attend all flex days. I even got involved in participatory governance. Mind you, until this academic year, I was also working at 2 other campuses and doing all of the teaching, office hours, curriculum, and SLOs for those divisions, or those departments at those campuses as well. So I soon found myself in a 40 to 60-hour work week, not counting commute times between campuses. As the work mounted, I asked some of my fellow adjuncts to pitch in with whatever time that they could, but they also have full work weeks and can't take on much more. So now everybody on this team has become weary. As Diana mentioned, I also was at spring plenary for Academic Senate, and workload was a major topic. It was not a breakout session, but it was on the minds of everyone. And this year, Academic Senate was sharing plenary with chief instructional officers, chief student services officers, and with other administrators from community colleges across the state. Everyone had the same 2 questions. Does anyone actually work a 40-hour work week? And what role do adjuncts play, if any, in departmental workload? There is a preference to hire more part-time professors to teach classes that full-time faculty just can't pick up. Most of these adjuncts are trying to cobble enough work together just to get the bills paid. So they usually don't have the time to participate in departmental tasks outside of the requisite teaching, office hours, and SLO reporting. So full-timers must work longer work weeks or hope that an adjunct or two will pitch in with whatever time they can spare. Everyone is tired and in search of extra team members to share the load. So now I ask you, how does that farmer put his plowing team together? How does he hire more horses? Maybe he hires more horses to spread the workload more evenly, or maybe pick up a couple extra ponies and see if it works. Or does he scale back his farm, a farm that has always been a very high-producing, high-quality farm? How would you recommend that he puts the team together?
My name is Jackie Escobar. I have been working as a counselor at Skyline College for 20 years. The past 5 years as a wellness counselor and articulation officer at AO. I consider myself very lucky to be working at a college that values and recognizes the role of counseling faculty as integral to the college community success of our students. The consistent message that my counseling colleagues and I share is that we love what we do and know we are fortunate to be at an institution who supports us and values the success of our students as much as we do. We can't see ourselves doing anything else or doing it anywhere else, and we do value the support of our administration and our instructional colleagues. Over the past few years, our faculty workload has grown exponentially. Legislative initiatives such as SB 1440, the transfer degrees, the increased impaction of majors at the CSUs and UCs, and the complexity of four-year college admissions policies has required additional counseling hours to create an SEP that several years ago we completed in a one-half-hour counseling session. Now it can take up to 2 to 4 half-hour counseling sessions. Recent mandates like the Student Success and Support Program require additional counseling hours, and development and programs was not required in the past. As counseling faculty, we not only counsel our students, but we also teach, coordinate programs, and participate in governance committees. We play integral roles in learning communities and special programs. Each new program or initiative on campus includes a counseling faculty. And while we value the role that we play in each of these programs, mandates, and initiatives, we do feel the additional pull of our time. Most of us are actively involved in multiple projects, programs, or committees on campus. And while we're excited to participate in these programs, our challenge has been in managing our time to do the work of these programs, but also responding to increased demand in counseling hours and maintaining a work-life balance. This past Thanksgiving, my husband and 3 children were playing outside of our home. I was in the house reviewing course outlines in my role as AO. After about 30 minutes of playing, my 11-year-old daughter, Isabel, came through the kitchen door and said to me, "No offense, Mom, but I never wanted to be a counselor." And I asked her, "Well, why not?" She said her response to me was, "Because you work too much. Leave it to our children to show us what we cannot see." Her response left me a bit stunned. Both roles are so important to me, my role as a mother and my work role as a counselor in AO. After doing some processing, we have to process as counselors, with my family and colleagues, I came back to work the next week and asked my dean for reassignment of the role that I absolutely love, AO. It's not the job of AO that is difficult to do, it is doing it while juggling all of the other responsibilities that challenge my time. I had to choose from an assignment I love and my children. Children go so fast. I don't know. Sorry. You know that the counselors are going to get emotional. I don't want my children, when they are adults, to reflect back to their childhood and remember how mama was up there too working too much. Sorry. My youngest daughter, Sophia, has hinted at my balanced workload as well, so suggesting that I should change my job to a baker. Why a baker, I do not know, because I absolutely do not have the baking gene. The closest thing I come to baking comes from a box that starts with the name Betty and ends with Crocker. And while my example is clearly specific to me, many of my colleagues struggle with the same pull of time from one responsibility to another, while also making time for self-family, friends, and significant others. Sorry, I have to talk about my kids, and that makes me cry. So the challenge for me and many of my colleagues that I spoke to is this: how do we continue to do the work that we love and find meaning in while balancing the demands of our jobs and finding a meaningful work-life balance? How do we manage the pull from the needs of our individual students so that we put them first, and we're also balancing institutional priorities and needs that ultimately impact student success? Finding this balance is not only necessary for our physical and personal health, but also for the work that we do for our students. Thank you.
We have one really short speaker more.
I promise it's unique.
Yeah, he's the short one.
Hi, my name is Stephen Lehigh. I teach economics at CSM here. I think my colleagues have done a great job of kind of presenting the tangible components of the workload issue. One of the things that I just wanted to kind of talk about is we had this discussion on Academic Senate where I serve as a senator, and for me, everything is about quantifying stuff. That's what economics is. And so when this came up, I tried to basically try to metricize what was going on with the workload issue. And one of the things that becomes apparent, right, is that faculty staffing and hiring is completely related metric-wise, right, to the number of students that we have. And so if you look at, say, the numbers at CSM over the last decade, we've seen a decrease in enrollment of roughly 15%, 16%, somewhere in that range, where our ratio of load, which basically is, right, number of faculty teaching classes per student, is the same. And so that implies, right, that what's happening is essentially, right, we're correlating staffing to that population, which makes sense only if you consider what we do in the class. The problem is what we do outside of the class, right, is not variable relative to the number of students. So serving on Academic Senate, all the committee work that we're talking about, doing program review, curriculum, those things are, right, division-based, department-based. Those are not necessarily related to how many students I have in my class or the fact that we might offer a few less econ classes, right? And so that burden, right, is then getting distributed over a smaller and smaller population. And so I think a lot of what not only people are addressing in terms of an increase in workload, in terms of what's being asked of us, but secondly, right, how it's getting spread is now starting to increase as well. And so there's kind of this passive increase in workload that's happening as well, and it's more because it just doesn't get quantified, right? Like we associate metric teaching to how much do we produce in terms of students per teacher. And we don't necessarily think about all of this outside work that's happening that does need to get done, that's part of benefiting the community and the college itself, right? But we're basically distributing it more and more and more onto people, and I think that that's really indicative of why we feel frayed and why we feel overworked in a sense, is because every time you kind of come up, it's like we have another committee, who wants to work on it, and you feel like you've already done, you know, you're already involved in many of those things, and so it's not that those things shouldn't be created, but I think oftentimes those initiatives get created in a vacuum of, this is a good idea, how do we then staff it? And there's less and less people to pull from, at least from our campus. And that part of it then requires you to serve more and more and more in order to kind of make up that difference. And I think as people have said, we're motivated by the success of our students, and most of us are not going to turn that down, right? We are there to basically make sure that our students continue to succeed, and we want to pursue these really beneficial initiatives that people come up with, right? But it does start to fray you over and over as you continue to kind of spread thinner and thinner and thin. And so I just wanted to kind of present that aspect.
Thank you.
Professor, and one from Bruce Greenstein, excuse me, a department coordinator written record under communications to the board, please, Jenny. That's what's down there. Thank you. And again, just on behalf of the board, we really appreciate all the extraordinary efforts of all of our faculty and staff that contribute to our students' success. And we hear about many of these, some tonight, you heard about our students are very successful. So we really appreciate all of your efforts in assuring us student success. Thank you very much for coming and addressing us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.